training a lot, but I keep hearing about NFTs. I'm learning about it, but here and there, not really paying attention. Same thing, I guess, without me noticing. In the back of my head, I always thought I'm retaining information even though I may not think of it because the human brain is so remarkable where it retains things even though you may think I'll never get this.
Created live on Fireside.
GM, fellow firesiders, and everybody tuning in. Welcome to Athletic Definition. I'm your host, Coach Ray Z, and I am excited to be here today. Today is the first edition in the morning ever that I've had a live show. I have my second cup of coffee. Let me know if you're a coffee lover in the comments. Today, I'm excited because we're going to be talking about sports and NFTs. If this is your first time joining me, I am a huge endurance athlete and also a huge sports fan. In the world of jiu-jitsu, there is a hashtag meme that goes around saying jiu-jitsu saved my life. For me personally, sports saved my life. Sports kept me from going deep into drinking or getting heavily involved in drugs or who knows, maybe joining a gang and ending up in jail or being dead at this point. I started getting into sports, even though I was never good at it. You could just kind of picture me as in the movie Rudy, just a guy who has a passion but doesn't have the athletic skills or the frame or anything like that, but just the whole passion of sports and playing. Even though when I was younger, I really didn't get to play any sports or anything like that till later on. I just started watching sports and I really loved how competitive and the different types of personalities and how you could see that some people take it more seriously than others and why some people just kept pushing and pushing and separated themselves from being good to great, from being great to legendary and on and on. And then I know with NFTs, a lot of people are like, I have no idea what that means. I really don't know. I really don't care. But if you like sports and you collect the baseball cards or football cards or anything like that, I'll show you. I think it's a great way for you to start getting to know this technology more. It's not going away. And then as you start to get it to know it more and become more familiar with it, when it starts becoming more part of everyday life, you won't be in such shell shock going on with, well, what's an NFT and how do I do it? And what's this wallet? So let me start off by saying, yes, I did collect cards in the beginning before technology. These were the first NFTs, and I collected a variety. I have a whole set of the Garbage Pail Kids, even WWE cards. I have the Ultimate Warrior, have Deion Sanders, rookie baseball, and then for those of you who are just listening, how about some Elvis Presley cards? Got those as well, and then just more, from NBA to football. I would just try to collect the players I liked. But in the beginning, when you first get started, all you do is you really just buy packs. Well, baseball cards are not the only thing that are collectibles. You can also have jerseys signed if you want to wear them or not. Or back in the day, magazines. Now, magazines are still big on sales because they have such good marketing, clickbait titles when you go to the supermarket. So even though you may think magazines are dead, they are still big sellers. But you can also collect magazines, which I have the when Hulk Hogan slammed Andre the Giant magazine. And the difference between these and NFTs is I have to take care of the magazines physically. I have to take up space for them in my home. This is when the Ultimate Warrior won, Hulk Hogan, and he was the first intercontinental and heavyweight champion. And so you have to take care of them. It depends on how much you could just put like a thin plastic. This is when the 49ers won the Super Bowl with Jerry Rice on the cover. And also, there's collectibles that aren't sports. Just for example, this moon landing magazine that I have. So this could be a collectible, and I'm sure that they could turn other things. Well, not sure. I know that they can turn other things into NFTs, but we're going to keep it on sports today. As I mentioned, huge on sports and working out is what basically helped me be around today. And I wanted to show you a little bit more about NFTs. I just kind of started getting into it more and more and more. And let me kind of tell you a little bit about how I got into it. I was working for the bank, I don't know, for 10 years. And then I moved into treasury management. In treasury management, we had this one system that most people call it direct deposit, but it's really ACH. And ACH is the way most Americans get paid their direct deposit from their employer. Now, when you have really, really large companies, let's say, for example, like Google or Apple or Facebook, you're not just making payroll for 10, 15, 20 people. You're making payroll for thousands of people. And so usually what they do is they buy a program or they have someone in the office who especially knows how to work with that program. And really, the program is just nothing but numbers. Our tech support didn't work with formatting at all. That wasn't what they were there for. So they would always tell us to refer them to the person who sold them the software or the person in charge of that in their department. But of course, our job was to provide excellent service, white glove service. So you never really just wanted to tell them no, because if you get audited that call or they do some sort of, checking to see how your customer service, some people, even though you don't service that, are going to be saying that you basically didn't go out of your way to try to help them. And so most people just didn't want to deal with those type of calls, especially once tech would leave for the day, then you're just kind of stuck. But the more difficult, the more challenging I found it. And we could do screen sharing. So what I would do is I'd say, okay, let me look at the screen and I would forewarn them. Most of the time it worked, but sometimes it would backfire. I'd be like, I don't know anything about the formatting, but let me take a look at your file to see if there's anything like completely obvious that maybe you missed. I know a second set of eyes can always be helpful. So I started looking at these formats during the screen sharing. And after a little while, as basically it was just a file of numbers, I kind of started getting like, oh, the header's here. Oh, this is the account. Oh, this is a beneficiary. And I kind of just started figuring out what's what. And I was able to help a couple people just by letting them know. Now, some files were super complicated and had a lot of people, but just putting like the wrong decimal or the wrong space could have you direct $1 million into someone's account versus $1,000, which was what they were going to get paid. And this happened all the time. I've had past customers who would direct deposit way too much money into people's accounts, and I'd have to help them get it back. So because of this, I'm like, oh wow, this is pretty insane. I really didn't think I would get the concept of that. That was just part of my job. I did a lot more, but that was just one little thing. And when they first trained you, they train you and they're like, we're just kind of teaching you the basics. You really are going to learn on the floor. And when you learn on the floor, and at least in this bank, you were never allowed to tell people in this department that you're brand new. They always wanted the customer to get the perception that they're in good hands, which I understand. But at the same time, it put a lot of pressure on you. And then later on, the pandemic happens. I really wasn't even happy at that job and I walked away. So I'm not working at the bank. And during the pandemic, I'm into really fitness like I've always have, probably had more time to train than before. And so I'm training a lot, but I keep hearing about NFTs. I'm learning about it, but here and there, not really paying attention. Same thing, I guess, without me noticing. In the back of my head, I always thought, I'm retaining information even though I may not think of it because the human brain is so remarkable where it retains things even though you may think I'll never get this. So I'm listening to about Web3 and NFTs and it's cool. And then as time goes on, now it's emerging at this point, 2020, a lot of companies are starting to kind of adapt it like NBA, NFL, UFC, they're working on their NFTs. I knew about it, but I really never jumped into it. And then I keep learning about it, learning about it. And then I come across Fireside, and Fireside talks about ownership, owning your own show versus, or basically what you make, your content that you're creating. So you own that versus like saying going on YouTube or Twitter or Facebook, at any point they could go on there and delete it, remove it if they don't agree with what you're saying. So it's censorship. And then I started learning more about decentralized and the difference between decentralized, at least in Web3, and centralized, and what it all means. So as I started figuring out more and more, I really like the idea of owning your assets or owning what you buy. And because of that, I'm like, okay, I'm going to keep looking into this further. And then I keep seeing, that at the time, I think it was Patrick Mahomes. He did his NFT drop, and it was one of the largest in history as far as money. And then I think it just really started catching a peak, and then it kind of all tanked. But in sports, there's still a lot of people who are active in that community. And like I said, I think it's more just because it's a passion for the sport and not just the NFT. But right now, I think it's a lot of people that are within the industry. So today, I'll be primarily focusing on the NBA Top Shots NFTs, NFL, they call it NFL All Day NFTs, and then DraftKings, which is known for betting. They also have NFTs available. Before I get into that, I found an article. It's the top 10 most expensive NFTs of all time. And we're not talking just regular art, we're talking sports. The number 10 is Mookie Betts, and that one sold for $2.05 million. And it just looks like a cartoon image of him. And then they have basically real images of him running. Number 9 was Action Jackson Sports Card, and that one sold for 2.08 million. Number 8 is Aaron Judge Legendary, and that one sold for $2.129 million. Then number 8 is Alex Morgan, and I guess the type is called Legendary, and that one sold for $2.129 million. This one, I'm not even sure if I consider it sport, but Nike's a big player in sports, and this one's called the Nifty Dodge Low Taylor, and it's just like a blurred image of a Nike shoe, and it sold for $2.15 million. Then the rare Diego Maradona 2020 to 2021, that one sold for $4.3 million. After that, you have Michael Jordan Sports Punk at number 4, and that one sold for $5.06 million. And that one is actually not an image of Jordan. It's one of those, I don't know, the kind of you see blockheads, the pixelated pictures. I'm not really into the pixelated pictures, but I understand that's what people are into now, especially seems like that's what a lot of the art was in the NFTs when they first started coming out. And then it's Jamal, a boxer. His sold for $19.1 million at number 3. Number 2 is the MLB championship with Brett Gardner, and that one sold for $21.28 million. And the number 1 NFT is the statue of LeBron, and that one sold for $21.6 million. So as you could see, there's money to be made in this, although everything I'm telling you is for entertainment purposes. I am not a financial advisor. Do your research. One of the things when you buy an NFT is getting a wallet. And there's two types of wallet. There's custodial and non-custodial. The non-custodial, basically, you don't get the seed phrase, and you're like, "What's a seed phrase?" It's your very top secret password that you don't want to share with nobody. And in case you ever lose it, let's say you bought that LeBron James statue, if you lost the seed phrase, your LeBron James is gone. There'd be no way for you to recover it. And then if you don't get your seed phrase, then basically the company that you have your wallet with has the seed phrase. And so really you don't really own that. From what I was looking at the NBA, the NFL, and the DraftKings ones, you have a wallet. You don't have to worry about going and getting an individual wallet, a custodial or not. It's built into the platform, the website. They were one of the first adapters in a way where they would accept cryptocurrency, and you can also play with a regular debit card. That's something for you to consider before you buy any sort of NFT as far as sports. You're going to own it, but not really own it. And that's something that you could research further on. If you don't quite understand what I mean, there's plenty of different other YouTubers that can get more technical, or podcasts that you can listen to and kind of understand what that means. The good thing is, though, if you do want to sell it, they have their own marketplaces where you can go and sell your, let's say you bought a card and you want to try and sell it. They have their own marketplaces. And with it being the NFL, NBA, a UFC, you'll always find collectors who will want to buy it, in my opinion. So that's something you can look into. So yesterday I set up my first DraftKings account. I've never used it for gambling, or playing parlays, or doing the fantasy football. I used to work in a casino in Las Vegas, and I was a sports bookie, so I'm very familiar with betting, but I had never really done it. And I've been playing traditional fantasy football for over 20 years, just never got into the DraftKings. I can't remember if it was them or FanDuel. I think maybe both of them. When they first came out, it was like, I remember there was controversy saying that a bunch of their employees were able to bet and somehow we're beating everybody, which to me sounds like some sort of insider trading. I don't remember what happened with that, but because of that, I just never logged in. Recently, I was just going for another show, looking at the difference between FanDuel and Sports DraftKings, and I saw that they have NFTs. So I'm like, oh, cool. I'm going to come back and check out their website. I ended up setting up my profile. And when I set up my profile, I started kind of looking through the different types of cards. I'm really more interested in trying to play fantasy football with NFTs, which they have an option for that. So I'll be looking into setting up my team. And for sure, I'll be doing a different show where you can kind of see what I did. And I'll let you know from the NBA, the DraftKings, and the NFL. When you first log on and create your profile, some of them will give you freebies. The NFL, I got a free Patrick Mahomes NFL all day NFT. And maybe, I don't know, since it's free, who knows if it'll be worth money or not. I just kind of felt excited that that's my first NFT. When you do NBA Top Shots and you set up your profile, you get the opportunity to buy a starter pack for $9. I believe the most you can do is get 3 starter packs, and within there, you get moments of NBA, and you'll guaranteed, I think, to get a some core. They have different values, and I don't remember them all exactly, but basically, the more rare, the more money it's worth in the future. And then the NFL all day as well. Barely set up both profiles. Actually, I set up the NFL one, the NBA Top Shots, and I set up the DraftKings. I was going to buy something so I could tell you more about the experience, but as I'm reading through it, even on the NBA Top Shots, it says how you should spend your first week on it, and it's a like a little tutorial. It shows Kevin Durant, and they're breaking down to him how much his moments are going for, and you can see how much they've sold for, and it's pretty cool overall. I really liked it. I'm gonna say that the DraftKings, they are partnered with NFL, PA, and the other associations, but I don't like some of their cards so far from what I could see. It's basically, let's say, I'll name one specifically. Kittles from the San Francisco 49ers, the tight end card, you could buy one for $29 and add it to your NFT roster. And then you can buy the same card for, I think, like $3,000. I think they have like 4 different tiers. So the 4 different tiers, you don't even get a different card. It's the exact same card, and for me paying thousands of dollars more for it, I would expect a little difference in the card. Really, the only difference is where it tells you like the value core, or rare, and legendary. Besides getting that on the card, I don't really see the difference. You can click on it and kind of see it'll play out for you. So far, it looks like the NFL moments seem to be more expensive, but it's at least like a whole play. And when you buy a card, from what I could see, you're actually getting a different card. So I'm not knocking the DraftKings because I really still don't know enough, but I'm looking, like I said, to do a whole team of fantasy, and kind of, if you've never tried it or want to try it, that's something that you could explore. I also was looking at their UFC cards, and maybe the more rare ones cost more money, but those were more affordable. some of the prices, I'm like, man, who are these people during inflation that are buying all these cards for 200,000, 200,000? You can kind of see what's recently sold. You can also buy, at least on NBA Top Shot, the like lowest cards are maybe $2, and there's about 40,000 of those made. So that's why it's only $2. They're more common, but maybe in 5 years from now, since it's still pretty early to the game, they might go up in value, just like anything else. Because the older the cards that back in the day you used to collect, the older the cards, the more money they're worth, but also the player. Before, when you used to just buy packs of cards, you'd get a pack and you really wouldn't know what's in the card. I'm sorry, what's in the pack. You get your pack. Let's say you pay like $1 for it. You might end up getting some super rare card in there that's worth a lot of money. And I think that's pretty much the same concept with the NBA Top Shots. I didn't buy a pack yet because as I'm looking more and more into it, it's like it seems like you got to do a little bit of research like everything else before just buying something blindly, unless you're just a really big fan. But I still haven't done enough research. I'll probably end up buying something today. I got a free pack from the DraftKings. I think it's like 4 or 5 players that give you a free pack to get started. So you can do your, call it Rainmaker for the fantasy football. And I got Daniel Jones and Nick Foles, which is a kicker. And the other two guys, or three guys, I really don't know who they are. And I can't figure out how to even put Daniel Jones in the starting if I want to do one of these tournaments. I would say that all three websites are not the easiest to get started with. You are going to have to maybe look at some tutorials. Some of them are built in, they do come with instructions. But even then, it's not going to be something that you're just going to log in, or maybe, depending on how tech savvy you are. I'm not I wouldn't say I'm not tech savvy, but I'm also not a computer science major as well. It's going to be a little bit of a learning curve, and maybe you'd want to just buy a couple small purchases just to get your feet wet, kind of get an idea what's going, and then you could actually buy something more expensive. Because what if you end up buying it and then it doesn't work for you? And I'm sure you could resell it, but I'm not that far deep into it. But I really do see this as something that isn't going to go away, even if you don't own it like true individuals, where it's a custodial wallet, because it's the NBA, it's the NFL, and it's another way. I don't see them taking it away because it's another market where they never even were thinking about making additional income, and it's generating millions and billions of dollars for them. Definitely going to stay sports and the NFTs, and it's going to keep growing and growing. And I'm just, into sports and fitness. And so I've thought about how can the average athlete be able to make some money, some profit off NFTs. I'm not quite sure yet. I'm still working on that. I've even heard of more famous athletes that they just don't get the concept of the NFTs. And that is another thing. Even if you hear famous athletes telling you about NFT, like I believe Mayweather and Kim Kardashian's not an athlete, but they were promoting the same NFT, and I'm not sure if both of them even fully understand how they work, but or maybe they were in on the scam, but it they're being sued because of it. And so just because you see an athlete talking about NFTs, you still want to do your research on the company, unless it's one of those major companies like directly from the NBA or NFL. Because when it comes to licensing and all that, why would they want to give it to someone else unless they're going to make some sort of benefit? So, from what I've researched so far, the DraftKings does have association with the NBA, NFL, and also UFC. I'm checking to see if I could find them separately besides on DraftKings. The UFC, so far, I have not. I believe everything through both of them are through DApps. I think that's what, or Dapper. I think that's what it is. I'd be interested to know if anybody has already purchased their first sports NFT. Did you just kind of go out the gate and already know what you were doing? Feel free to leave it on the comment, and I'll be sure to bring that up on the next episode. I'm really excited about the future, even though for some people it may seem gleam, but I as time goes on, I don't like to have all these things in my house. I kind of turning into minimalist. So although I do enjoy my baseball cards and my collectibles, I've gotten rid of a lot of it just because it takes up space. So I do like the idea. And then as I mentioned, when you try and sell it now, like if I wanted to sell my David Robinson rookie card, it wasn't. I actually went on a dive recently, I think maybe about a year ago. Well, how do I know the value of my cards? Before there was a magazine, it was called, I think, Beckham, and you could go on there and it would give you a price range of your card and how much it's worth. Negative to that was you'd have to buy the magazine separately. Like they wouldn't mix baseball or football or basketball. You'd have to either buy an NBA one or an NFL one, and then you can get the value. Well, now maybe it's changed in a year, but the most accurate system out there for you to get an idea of what your past cards are worth is eBay. eBay has sells the most cards of them all, and even then, you go on there and you could find this Davidson Robin rookie, just for example, being sold for $1,000 and also being sold for $5. So it's really hard to say. I guess kind of like an NFT, what is the true value of it? It's really up to the fan and the person wanting to pay for it. The other thing is, I was trying to sell some of these cards. So, what are my options? I could put it on eBay or I could put it like on OfferUp. And on OfferUp, someone wants to come to your house. And I'm like, I'm not really feeling that with everything going on, crime going up. I would meet people at the park and then they wouldn't show up. The other option is for you to mail it. So if you mail it and the card gets bent, they're going to want to return it. And that's not going to be helpful for me. So right now, to me, it's not really easy to be able to sell your collectibles as far as cards and pretty much anything else. If you had any sort of collectible, a magazine, how are you going to sell that? It's going to have to be in person or go to maybe a pawn shop where they're definitely not going to give you the value. The and you also have to protect them because they could get damaged. When it comes to an NFT, that is one of the things I like. It's you don't have to worry about buying a cover for it. And if you wanted to sell it, it makes it much easier. You can sell peer to peer. You can't put it like on OpenSea because well, maybe you can. I saw where you could transfer your NFT, but because I only got one so far, I haven't even attempted it to see if I could put it like in a different type of wallet, like that's custodial. But probably not because it's the NFL and NBA. It's so much easier to sell it where you could sell something and not have to deal with someone in person. So in that way, I do like it better. But at the same time, I actually can hold this, and this is although I don't have the right to go and like reprint this and then sell it again, I actually own it more than I think the NFT on that I would buy like on Top Shots. So I don't know. It'll be interesting as everything keeps evolving and the definitions of. I know there's somewhere where I just lost the article of the difference and how much you truly own between a sports NFT versus maybe having a card. I like them both. I stopped collecting cards many, many years ago, and pretty much all sports memorabilia. I just have the older ones, and I got rid of a lot. I just kept certain ones. But now with the whole NFT, I do like the idea of going and buying certain moments and plays because when cards first started, they were just regular cardboard. Let's see if I have one like this Deion Sanders one. If you could see it, it was just regular cardboard. And then as they got better, I think Don Russ or different companies started making the paper thicker and glossier. And so even some of at that time, some of the cardboard cards lost the value because the new cards were so much better quality. And then the last time I went into a sports shop just to kind of take a peek, and this was years ago, they had it to the point where you could actually see a whole play, kind of like now the moments. It would be a play, but you had to move the card back or forth, and then the whole play would play out. I remember seeing a kick returner catch the ball, run it in for a touchdown, and it was all on one card just by kind of flicking your wrist. So I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. And I kind of thought about maybe buying one just to have one. Now you can go and buy NFTs and get a whole moment on there, but you don't have to worry about Let's say, for example, someone breaking into your house and taking your collection. It, I mean, I guess if they find your passwords and all that, they do have access. But I, I try and make my passwords pretty difficult, and I never put them complete. Memorize a lot of them. Uh, just some things that I learned while working at the bank, and I'm like, well, if this is a method that the bank uses to protect their passwords, then it should be effective for a regular person like me. And I keep getting more and more into the whole Web3. Excited to learn more, share it with you. Hopefully, you're excited. I haven't got into the cryptocurrency thing at all. I have more questions than answers. I just keep learning on my own. And I did buy a couple NFT websites, and they're all fitness and sports related. And I just think that in as time goes on, they will become more and more popular. With unstoppable domains, they give you so many things all the time. They're always partnering up with new companies. So you get a lot. And in the future, it's kind of like, let's say, for example, marketing. Everybody would do flyers on the cars. And then the internet came out, and people are like, get out of here with your internet. I'm putting flyers on the car. I'm going door to door. Then that comes out. And then the people that were smart, the people that saw the future, got their dot coms. And yeah, there was a bubble and everything, but in the long run, they got their websites. They were one of the first. They got additional business. The person who refused to change got stuck. Then a little bit after that, the social media, the realtors that maybe, or any sort of company that started putting their information on the internet, on social, on YouTube, they were the pioneers, the first. They saw what's coming. And one thing that I've learned is technology is not going to stop. So just because you don't understand something doesn't mean that the rest of the world isn't adopting it. So that's why I say, your entry to NFTs and Web3, especially if you love sports, would be easier to do just going out and trying to buy a pack or anything like that, because then you kind of have a concept of it. And then from there, as technology keeps evolving, you won't feel so like, what's going on? I have no idea what they're talking about. And when it starts relating to just normal life, you'll have a good concept of what's going on. It is a bit different. Um, you don't have to deal with getting the wallets and all that. But I see the future, and that's why I got the those websites, because I'm going to take over the whole fitness and sports market. That's my plan. I'm not doing, well, really, I'm doing this because I love sports and I love fitness, and that's what helped me get out of my depression. And I'd like to share my passion. It's tough with the algorithm because I'm not full of steroids. And depending on what you talk about, you just won't get that type of momentum. And that's why I really appreciate Fireside for giving me early access. And since then, I've been able to produce a lot more because there's just such an easy platform, and they're also involved heavily in NFTs in the future. And that's another thing that helped me want to start learning about it more, because I'm like, oh, well, what do they mean by I really have ownership? And so I just kept looking and looking, and everything keeps leading the same road. It's going to be about owning your assets in the future, and basically, the later you start, maybe the more difficult, or it could be more easy, because really it's not going to catch on till the average person's doing it, till grandma could go on her phone, or grandpa, and be able to purchase something. When it becomes mainstream like that, and maybe the interfaces will be easier, maybe your connections will be easier, as far as like on wallets and everything else, kind of more seamless, like when you go on Top Shot or NBA, as far as making the purchase, where you can take cash or cryptocurrency. I'm just excited to see what happens. I'll do a future show on NFT and sports, and I'll let you know how it went trying to draft my first NFT fantasy football team. And then also, I'm kind of interested in buying the starter packs in the NBA and see what kind of players I get. And it's just kind of like going back to when I was a kid. You buy a pack and you're like excited to see what goes on. You don't get to get that privilege of opening it with your hands, but you open it in front. I did open my first pack, the one that the NFL gave me. So far, the ones that I've received, they're all free. So who knows if in the future, as it catches on, if they'll keep giving you starter packs. But I think right now the onboarding process could still be smoother for all of them. That way, people could immediately start playing. It seems like you probably, depending on how much time you have, it might take you a couple days to be able to get it right. I think by the end of today, I'll be able to make my first purchase. And thank you for joining me on the very first athletic definition morning show. I've never done a morning show. Got my coffee going, so give me 1 second. I will be back later today. I'll be doing athletic definition, sports and fitness news, where I'll be covering the latest trends in fitness and sports. So I want to thank everybody for joining me and everybody watching on the stream. I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Happy Friday. I will be back later at 3 p.m. with that, and we'll be covering a little bit of everything. I'm going to be talking about the new Apple Watch Ultra. I'll be talking about, if you watched sports this past weekend, it was a big sports weekend. There was a big jiu-jitsu tournament, there was boxing, and of course, the NFL. And I will be kind of just discussing that, any sort of new techs and trends that have come out as far as fitness. Another thing that I'm going to definitely be talking about, because also see gym memberships changing in the future with NFTs. And in the future, I think that you will purchase an NFT and it'll have your gym membership. Be a little, it's kind of, I've heard the whole model could be used in many different ways. So I'm going to do a little bit more research on that because I'm barely kind of hearing that around. But I definitely see that basically hitting everywhere. So see maybe if you end up buying your NFT early. Usually when you go to a gym, they have the pre-sale. So if you do a pre-sale, you get a better deal, or you get like some sort of a lifetime membership or lifetime deal. And I'm pretty sure that's how the NFTs will work. The first NFTs you buy with your membership, you'll probably get more perks. You'll probably get a set price. And then as time goes on, the people that come in later won't get such a good a deal, but that's what you get for as far of a perk for being an early adopter. It's definitely changing fitness. I've done shows on fitness in the metaverse, fitness in the future, and it's just going to keep going. And I'm more than happy to share what I know as far as what's going on in fitness. I hear a lot of shows about NFTs and everything else, but nothing really sports related or workout related. So I think I'm a pioneer on that, and we'll see what happens with this whole fitness in the metaverse. I'm not the biggest fan of that. I don't have any sort of Oculus glasses, and seen Mark Zuckerberg on Joe Rogan talk about it. He just started training MMA, jiu-jitsu, and he doesn't talk about using his own product. It's funny how if you are the creator of it, but you won't use your own product to physically work out. Before he was a runner, and he said that he could think a lot. And to me, that is the whole point of running. It's you don't want to go, and it's more about you mentally being able to conquer yourself to go out for a run when you don't want to, or once you start going for a run and your mind's telling you to quit, it's to conquer your mind to tell you not to quit. But I also understand now why he's doing MMA. With MMA, when someone's trying to punch you or someone's trying to choke you, you're so present in the moment, you don't have time to be thinking about, oh, what am I going to cook? Or I'm tired, or I want to quit. Because if you quit, you're going to get choked out or punched in the face. So you really have to be focused. I understand both points, but they're all beneficial. And to me, still, I think we're many, many years away. Working out in reality is working out than in the with technology or in the metaverse. I have heard of one lady who lost a lot of weight just working out in the metaverse. And so we'll see if I could actually reach her and have her come on and find out what made her actually get so motivated, the VR and the metaverse and training with that versus in reality. It could be so many different reasons, but I think that, like everything, if we can learn how to just balance new technology with reality, we're going to be just fine. I want to thank everybody for joining. I hope you enjoyed this episode of NFTs and Sports. I am your host, Coach Ray Z. This is episode 144, and be sure to catch me on Fireside Live later today, where we'll be talking about the fitness trends in sports. Thank you for joining me. Good morning to everybody. Have a great day.